welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make some fresh cranberry sauce. So I have a bag of fresh cranberries here. I'm going to rinse them and I'm going to pick out any ones that are bad. So I'm going to rinse them under some cold water. And this is a 12-ounce bag of cranberries that I am using. 12-ounce bag of cranberries. I believe I got this one in a sprout or something along the way. So I'm rinsing them off here, just kind of looking to see if there's any bad ones or any rotten ones. They actually seem to be okay. So next, I'm going to put them into this pot. And I'm going to put in 2 cups of water. And I'm going to bring that to a boil. So I'm going to be using 2 cups of water. And I'm using cold water. So there's 1 cup. 2 cups of water. And while that is getting ready, I'm going to, because I am making the gel type of cranberry sauce, so I'm going to use some gelatin, unflavored Knox gelatin, and I'm going to put in 1.5 teaspoons of the gelatin into a small measuring cup and make it so it dissolves. So I'm going to actually use this little measuring cup I have here. And like I said, I'm going to put in 1.5 teaspoons of the gelatin and dissolve it in some water while that's wash off my spoon, sorry. Actually, I'm sorry, it's 1.25 teaspoons of the gelatin. And I'll write this recipe down so you have it. So there's 1 teaspoon and then the 1/4 of a teaspoon of my gelatin. If you don't want to make the gelled cranberry sauce, you can make whole berry as well and just not put the gelatin in it. So now I'm going to add 2 ounces of water to that. And I'm going to use warm water. And this little measuring cup has a 1 ounce on it. So I'm actually going to use 2 of these little measuring cups into there. And then I'm going to stir it up. So there's 1 ounce. 2 ounces. So I do have my cranberries on high heat, so I'm letting them come to a boil. And you can see I'm mixing up my gelatin for a little bit later on in the recipe here as those are boiling. Now, this recipe is actually really unique because you can use a can that you've had from something like a soup, beans, whatever, or you can make this cranberry sauce in a mason jar. So I do have a fairly wide mouth mason jar. It's not like the biggest ones. And then I'm going to pour the cranberry sauce into there and then stick it in the refrigerator so it will gel. And as I'm going through, I do see 1 cranberry that's a little bit weird, so I'm just going to kind of pull it out. So while this is boiling, like I said, I made up my gelatin here. And I'm stirring it up. That's boiling on high heat. And I'm stirring these throughout just to kind of get them moving. It's starting to boil now, as you can see. And you should stir them often because you don't want them to burn or stick at in the pan. So once they do start rapidly boiling, you're going to turn your heat to medium. And if you look at some of my other recipes on my channel, you can see how to make fresh cranberry puree. You can see how I'd make fresh cranberry juice. If I was smart, I would have used some of my cranberry puree from one of my other recipes to make the cranberry sauce, but I've actually used that for other things lately, so I didn't have any of that floating around, because this will eventually turn to that same type of puree that I make with those. And you can smell the aroma of the cranberries as they're cooking. It smells so delicious. And like I said, right now it's on high heat. So my pot of berries are boiling fairly well. So now I'm going to turn them down to medium heat. So I'm going to turn them down to about 6 on my stove. And I'm going to let them continue to boil. And I'm going to stir them quite a bit just to keep them, you know, open. So the berries are going to start to pop open, and then they're going to begin up to foam. So once that happens, you let them boil for about 15 minutes. And you want the liquid to thicken with the berries. So basically, you're mashing the berries on here. So as you can see, the berries are starting to pop open. I'll come a little bit closer. So the berries are starting to pop open. You can see how they're kind of getting mushy. So they're starting to get foamy. So again, I'm going to show you how you can see how they're getting softer and stuff. And if you do get this juice places, it does stain, so be careful. So I'm going to keep stirring them, and I'm going to let them do for 15 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and set a kitchen timer for 15 minutes. On here. And again, I'm stirring them, letting it cook for 15 minutes. So as you can see, the cranberries are starting to thicken inside my pan here. I'll kind of bring it over so you can kind of see how it's starting to thicken up in here. And that's what you want it to do. You want it to thicken, and so it kind of sticks to the back of your spoon as you're making the cranberry sauce here. And as these are thickening, you want the liquid to go down by, like, reduce in it by probably about 1/4 of what you put in there. So you don't want it real runny. You want it so it's more, you know, thickened on here. So this has been boiling about 15 minutes, and as you can see, it's starting to thicken. I'm going to cook it just for a little bit longer, because you want a majority of the water to be out of it. So I'm going to cook it a little bit longer. I'm going to say about 5 more minutes. So I'm going to set the kitchen timer for 5 more minutes. But it is coming along. It is getting thicker. If you look, you can see how the cranberries are starting to, like, really pop open and like disintegrate, I guess you could call it. Okay, so these have been on for approximately about 20 minutes altogether boiling. So the next step is you're going to take a strainer and you're going to strain the mixture into a bowl. And you want to get as much of the juice and the jelly as possible. So as you can see, strainer's pretty full here. Let me wipe my pot off here. So you're going to need the pot again. So what you need to do is you need to kind of move it around so you get as much of the juice off that you possibly can. The juice and the jelly from the cranberries that you've been boiling. And like I said, it was approximately 20 minutes all together. Then you can actually use the cranberries that are left in here for other things. So you can use it as a commode to like put on top of pancakes. As you can see, I'm really squishing down and getting the juice out. And you can kind of scrape off the bottom here to get all, make sure you get all of the juice out. So you want to get as much of it out as you can. Okay. So I'm setting that aside for right now. That's just the extra on there. So the next, I'm going to add in some stevia. I'm going to add in 1.5 cups of stevia. If you don't have stevia, you can use Splenda. You can use, regular sugar. But like I said, this is a low carb version, low sugar version as well. So I'm going to be putting in 1.5 cups of stevia. So there's my 1/2 cup. And then my 1 cup. And my 1 cup. So now you're going to take this mixture and you're actually going to put it back into the pot. And you're going to bring it to a low boil. You don't want it to boil like really high. And then you're going to kind of stir in the stevia or the Splenda, whichever you're using, just enough to melt it. Like I said, a low boil. You don't want it to burn. So constantly stir it until the sugar is melted, or the stevia. Sorry, stevia, Splenda. And make sure you get all the lumps out of the sugar that you put in, whichever one you used. And again, it's a low boil. You don't want it to be a rapid boil, just enough to dissolve the sugar. So as you can see, my sugar is dissolving in here. And I do have it on like medium, just to get it so it's doing it. Okay, so I'm also going to add a little bit of orange extract into the mixture here. I'm going to put in 1/4 teaspoon of orange extract. So there's my 1/4 teaspoon. And I'm going to stir that in as well. You don't have to put the orange extract in, but it does give it that extra little bit of flavor. Okay, and the next thing, remember the gelatin we made a little while ago? We're gonna add that to the cranberry jelly here. So as you can see, I'm adding the gelatin to the cranberry mixture that we've just made with the sweetener and the cranberries. And we're gonna mix that up. Again, just stir it till it's mixed. So it's gonna kind of look like this once you're done. A little bit of frothy. And then depending if you're using your cans or if you're using the mason jar, I'm actually using the mason jar. So I'm going to pour the mixture into my mason jar. There's just a little bit left. I don't want to fill it all the way up to the top, so it has room to expand a little bit. I might actually add a little bit more here. It should all fit. I'm just kind of letting some of the foam go down here, but it should all fit in here once I get done. Just kind of got to work with the foam. So as you can see, all of it has fit into my mason jar that I have here. I'm going to put my cap on. And I'm going to refrigerate it in the refrigerator at least 6 hours. If you're making it for that day, it has to gel at least 6 hours. I'm making this for tomorrow, so that way it's going to be overnight, so it will be gelled a little bit more. In order to get this out, what you will need to do is use like little spatula and kind of work around inside of it and get the jelly out. You can chop it up into small pieces as well. So there you have it, some homemade cranberry sauce, the gel type, not chunky. Thanks for watching, and if you like my channel, give it that thumbs up, turn on that notification bell, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.